thank you for staying, and thank the Islamic Awareness Society for this opportunity. I'm privileged to spend this evening over the next 40 minutes discussing an inspiring story, an inspiring revolution that has had a major impact on humanity over the last 13 centuries. I think it's correctly labelled the eternal revolution, still giving, and it shall surely continue to give. I'll try to make it as relevant to your daily lives as possible. You probably have heard about the story of Imam Hussain, the grandson of the Prophet of Islam, and you probably can't find the details of the actual tragedy on the internet or in books. But I feel what people are lacking is the understanding of its application and implication. And I hope over the next 40 minutes I can shed more light. To start with, let's just remind you of those famous personalities. Fatima is the only daughter of the Prophet of Islam, that she got married to his cousin Ali, and they had 3 children. Hussain in the middle is the hero of this battle, alongside his sister Zainab. Very common names. Unfortunately, few people know who these people are. When I was at George's last year, I asked a few Muslims who was the mother of Hussain is, and they didn't know. So don't think it's just for the non-Muslims amongst you, it's for the Muslims as well. So this is the hero of today's story, Hussain. And when I refer to him as Imam Hussain, I'm sure you're familiar with the word Imam because it's quite frequently used nowadays in the media. The Imam of a mosque, the Imam of a center. I actually mean a specific meaning. Imam in Arabic means leader, but the specific Islamic meaning of Imam is godly appointed, chosen leader. That's what I mean. I don't mean just a common leader, a leader of prayer or of a mosque. And there are only a few of them. So what's this revolution all about? Why do we call it the eternal revolution? And why is it so important? You will notice that even though it happened 13 centuries ago, and yes, it happened within a Muslim society, the stance, the principles are all applicable to today's life. And I hope you'll appreciate this and appreciate the need to understand this revolution. So what did he revolt, Imam al-Hussain? Justice, freedom. You've heard about this nice and concise introduction about the revolution. And when the tyrant, the tyranny is mentioned, we probably think of other countries. But we don't really react. I mean, we know there are tyrants across the world, and we know there is lack of freedom across the world. But we don't react to these statements. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to actually take these principles and apply them to your own selves. Remember the occasions, the times where you've been subjected to a form of oppression, where people were unfair to you, where there was a lack of freedom at your own personal level, when you couldn't say what you wanted to say, you couldn't make the choice you wanted to choose. These principles, even though we think in a social level, we think a country where there's injustice, lack of freedom, but apply them to your personal level, and you'll see how basic they are and how important they are. So his revolution was about justice and freedom, and probably because you're living in the UK and you probably haven't been subjected to a lot of oppression or lack of freedom, probably the last point is more relevant to you. He led his revolution against those who wanted to justify crime in the name of religion. And living in the 21st century, I think we're all familiar with the idea of misusing religion and justifying crime in its name. How easy it is, and how the media is not really helping with clarifying these misconceptions. Justice, fair enough, that's a very basic principle. But what about freedom? When I say the grandson of the Prophet of Islam, led his revolution for freedom. But hang on a second. There is no freedom in Islam anyway. So how did he stand up for freedom? Islam is being targeted 24/7 in all prime-time TV documentaries that, Islam, lack of freedom, Islam, oppression. So how did the grandson of the Prophet of Islam himself die for the cause of freedom? Well, to be quite honest with you, I can present you many evidences that Islam does actually believe in the freedom that you want to lead, you want to live. The Prophet of Islam is originally from the city of Mecca, but we all know that he established a Muslim state. The question is, why didn't he establish his state in Mecca? Simple answer is, the people of Mecca didn't want him to establish the state there. So he didn't force them. He left. He left to another city where people called him. They said, come, we want you to lead us. So the fact that it's, the foundation of the first Muslim state, the original state, was according to the people's will, I think it's a solid evidence that, if the man behind the religion doesn't enforce his own laws at his lifetime on the people of his own city, he travels all the way to another city, I think that's a very clear example that he believes in freedom of choice. And if you think, well, that's one example, well, how about this rightly guided man, Imam Ali, his successor, his son-in-law, and one of the personalities that Muslims are quite proud of for the way he led his state, the way he led his life. An inspiring figure himself. When he moved the capital to Iraq, within his own capital, as we will discuss later, there were people who were rebellious against him. And you think, well, rebels, so what? Those rebels were so extreme, as I will discuss, they actually excluded him from the religion of Islam. Do you actually appreciate what I'm saying? This is the successor of the Prophet. He rules a state in his own capital. A group of men stand up and say, Ali, you're not a Muslim. And he gives them all freedom to say whatever they want. Okay, if I'm not a Muslim, why? Come and have a discussion with me. Tell the people why I'm not a Muslim. And after 2 years, when they couldn't reach they couldn't obviously find a convincing way, they decided to pick the sword. And that's only the time when he decided to fight them. And that group I will shed more light upon as we go on. So if the Prophet of Islam, and if his rightly guided successor, believe in freedom of choice and freedom of speech, then why do you subject this religion to this freedom issue and lack of freedom? I think there's lack of education amongst ourselves. By the way, even for Muslims. I would love for someone to come and present this evidence to all his friends, but unfortunately people can't. It's not about whether you're a Muslim or non-Muslim, whether you know about it or not. And it's all about initiative. Do you want to know about it? Do you want to find out what the truth is, or do you want to just believe the media and the propaganda? So yes, when the grandson of the Prophet of Islam died for freedom, because it is one of the principles that he believed in, just like his father and his grandfather. What about the third point? The justification of crime in the name of religion and misusing the religion. Well, I believe it's an eternal revolution because it has addressed a very common topic. Because it's not just Islam that's been misused. Every single religion you hear of has been misused by criminals, by dictators, justifying their own crimes and wrong deeds. Hence, if we understand how the grandson of the Prophet addressed this issue, I believe we can learn a lesson. Whether you're a Muslim or not, it doesn't matter. I believe that religion, whatever religion it is, it should aim to guide people towards perfection.